Hello and welcome. I'm Christine Sow. I'm the Vice President for International Programs at Plan International USA. I'm really happy to be here this evening. I'm really happy that the air conditioning is working here because it's hot and muggy, as Washington summers tend to be. So I wanted to welcome everyone here, in particular our participants in the 58th GWIM. Welcome, this is your evening, and we are honored to be here with you. I wanted to also welcome our special guests, and I'm not going to start to name them because I know I'll forget someone, but you know who you are. So thank you for being here, and there are a few that we will be able to name over the course of the evening. I also want to, in particular, thank any representatives from embassies from countries that are represented as part of the GWIM course. We appreciate your participation this evening and your support of the course participants, so thank you for coming. It's really a privilege and a pleasure for me to be here tonight because Plan International USA is a newcomer to the Global Women in Management course, and we have come to this because we merged with CEDPA, the Center for Development and Population Activities, last November. And I will tell everyone that I was here at the same evening a year ago with the GWIM 50, probably, was it 57? 56? Since there are some over in other countries, I'm not sure of the numbering. But anyway, at the last GWIM, and I was here, and we were in talks with CEDPA at that time, but it hadn't been announced publicly, and so we were secret friends. But we were all very excited about the potential and possibility of becoming one organization and a stronger and bigger organization to support the Global Women in Management series. So I'm here tonight representing both those who have come from CEDPA and the tradition that has come from CEDPA, as well as Plan International USA and the entire Plan International Federation. And so once again, I bid you welcome. I also want to say a special thank you to Exxon Mobil that has been very kindly and generously supporting this program for 8 years now, and to Neal Goins, who will be speaking for Exxon Mobil a little later in the program. Welcome, and again, thank you. We're very excited about this partnership, and we're really looking forward to seeing how we can expand it. So now let me talk a little bit about GWIM. GWIM was first launched in 1978, and it has been sponsored by Exxon Mobil Foundation's Women's Economic Opportunity Initiative since 2005. GWIM strengthens women's management, leadership, and technical skills to enhance and bring to scale programs that advance women's economic opportunities and build the next generation of women business leaders and entrepreneurs. GWIM does that and so much more, and this course is one piece of the GWIM program, but what I've been able to see is it really launches a lifetime of innovation and leadership and partnership. And again, CEDPA, Plan International USA, Exxon Mobil Foundation, we're all very happy that we also know that there are GWIM alumni out in the countries where you come from and throughout the world who we can partner with as we go forward. So it's the start of the addition to an already significant family of women leaders. Graduates come from all levels of society and represent civil society as well as government as well as the private sector. Some of our very esteemed graduates include Nafsia Mboy, the Minister of Health in Indonesia, as well as Her Excellency Sheikna Lubna Al-Qasimi, who is the Minister of Foreign Trade for the UAE. But I also want to note that we have women who come from small civil society organizations who are doing spectacular work in their communities. And although they may not have the name recognition that some of these very famous alums do, they are doing great work. So really thank you to all of you. Plan International works in 50 countries in the Global South and has 20 affiliates, mostly in the Global North, doing fundraising and program support. And as I said, CEDPA has been added to the Plan family for about 6 months. CEDPA has had a mandate that was focused on women and girls, and really giving women and girls the resources and empowerment that they needed to be able to improve their communities, improve their own lives. Plan International is a global federation that has focused traditionally on children and children in their communities, and we feel that the joining of CEDPA and Plan is really just ideal, because you can't work with children without working with women, and vice versa. We know that women, when they go out to work, the money that they bring home typically goes to support their children. It's not going for cell phones, it's going for food on the table, doctor's fees, and education fees. So for Plan, the marriage between CEDPA and Plan International, between a focus on women and adolescent girls, and a focus on children, both boy and girl children, is really an ideal combination. I will say, as the Vice President of Plan International USAID, not USAID, sorry, USA, that was in a former life, sorry, Plan International USA. I oversee the group within the organization that's working on international programming, the technical teams, and partnership with institutional funders. And so the work that is being done here is just right up our alley, and I'm really hoping that as we go forward, we're going to be able to expand the GWIM series and expand the kind of work that we're doing on women's leadership to be able to open this opportunity to more women throughout the world. And I will also make a plug that, you know, we're not just doing women's issues, we're also doing gender, and gender as men and boys, and we really need to work on the whole community and the whole family and both sexes. So it's not just about women, it's also about women and men in relation to one another. So at this point, I think I've spoken enough. I'm going to move on to the introduction that I'm very pleased to make. First of all, I just want to say that we are here tonight, as I've said, to celebrate the participants of GWIM 58. There are 26 women here from 21 countries. Can we all just applaud, because that's amazing. It's amazing to have everyone in this room. And you will hear from 2 of the participants later on this evening. They will give some words talking about their experience here, but also representing their peers who are also participating. But right now, I am pleased to introduce the representative of Exxon Mobil. Without Exxon Mobil's commitment to empowering women, the GWIM program would not be able to reach the women who are here today. Because of the support of the Exxon Mobil Foundation's Women's Economic Opportunity Initiative, these women will implement what they have learned during the 4 weeks they are here to broaden their organization's reach, multiplying the number of lives they improve in the communities in which they work. And I do just want to note, I'm just coming from the U.S. Global Leadership Coalition conference over at the Washington Hilton this afternoon. And Dr. Jim Yong Kim, the head of the World Bank, spoke, and Jack Lew, the Secretary of the Treasury of the U.S. government, also spoke. And there were a couple of panels in between. And what I can say is that at that conference today, at the Society for International Conference last week or 2 weeks ago, just the ongoing theme of these discussions is the importance of public-private partnership, and how can we put resources together, join resources to be able to, it may be corny, but 1 + 1 can be more than 2. And how can we work together, government, civil society, and the private sector, to actually be able to push us that much further? And so, that theme was alive and well. It was what was said by the president of the World Bank today and by the Treasury Secretary. And I think that, it was a perfect segue for me going from that to come to this dinner tonight, and again with Exxon Mobil here, knowing that this is an example of that, the success of that kind of a partnership. Okay, now let me introduce Neal. Neal, thank you very much for being here. Neal is Exxon Mobil's Director of International Government Relations for the Exxon Mobil Corporation. He will be telling you more about their initiative. Neal was raised in Latin America and has a degree in physics and geophysics. He is a scientist, but he is a scientist who believes in women's empowerment and the importance of the role of women in decision-making and in leadership and in international development. He has been working for Exxon Mobil since 1978, and he has worked for Exxon Mobil in Lagos, Nigeria. He's been in Mexico for a number of years, and once he came back to the U.S., he was appointed the principal geoscientist for the Mobil Corporation with global responsibility for operations, project quality, and staff development. He is now based in Washington, D.C. He was explaining to us that his family is in Boston, so he's commuting up and down, but he felt that the job here was the right one and important enough to continue working for Exxon Mobil. And we're very, very pleased to have him here tonight. So let me give the floor over to him. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that introduction. You all might be wondering how I started out in physics and geophysics and ended up in international government relations, and there's actually a story behind that. You can do hard science and have a great career with a great company like Exxon Mobil, and then you can drill not one, but two exploration wells that cost $150 million each and find nothing, and you end up in government relations. All right, so it's true. It's not a joke. On behalf of Exxon Mobil and myself, I'm delighted to welcome you all here tonight to celebrate what I understand is the 8th Washington, D.C. CEDPA Global Women in Management Program, or GWIM. So I've got three things to do. I need to extend some thanks to people in the room. I'd like to give you a little bit of personal perspective on the GWIM program, and then I get to introduce our main speaker for the evening, which is an honor in and of itself. So two thanks. First, I want to extend our tremendous thanks to CEDPA Plan International USA for their vision, execution of the GWIM program, for bringing us together tonight. It's their expertise that makes all of this happen, that makes all this possible. So thank you so much for everything you've done over 8 years. The second thank you is to the 26 incredible participants that we have in the GWIM program this year. This really is all about you, not about us. Each of you is a strong leader in your community. Each of you has great potential to make a significant impact within the nonprofit sector, in your community, and in greater society. Each of you has the ingenuity, the fortitude, and the talent, the determination to pave the way for the next generation of female leaders. You are role models. Each of you is not only achieving personal success, but reaching out to push other women and their respective communities forward. And what I'd like to do is ask each of the 26 GWIM participants to stand, and let's give them a round of applause, because this is about them. It is truly an honor to be with you. So many of you who are with CEDPA know that I have two daughters. When I did the first presentation like this in the CEDPA program, it was actually near the beginning, I think, about 8 years ago in Mexico, one of the first ones. And I will tell you that I had just moved down to Mexico from Houston at that point, out of my technical job into my government relations job. And so the first thing I did was go to one of these GWIM programs, and I had my picture taken with all the participants, who were all female, of course. And Exxon Mobil thought that was a great thing that we'd done, so they put the picture as the first thing that comes up when you log on to the Exxon Mobil internet. So the first day, I got about 150 calls from my former colleagues saying, "Great job, how do you get this?" Anyways, but when I left that event, which truly was one to bring tears to your eyes, I told my wife and my daughters were in grade school and middle school at the time, that if they were able to achieve one quarter of what the ladies I met had achieved, they could be tremendously proud of themselves. They're now on their way to college and upper high school, and I feel exactly the same way. I'll also mention that my degree's in physics, as was said, and I went to an Ivy League university to get that degree 40 years ago. It's our 40th reunion this year. That seems like forever to you guys, but some of you might be surprised to know that the freshman class I entered with was the first class to admit women in that Ivy League university, which we're still very proud of. 70 women and 930 guys in the freshman class. They also didn't have facilities for women because they made decisions at the last minute, so they put all the women in one dorm, which meant for the first couple of months there was just this ring of guys around the dorm 24/7. But it's amazing, isn't it, how much our perception of the potential of women has come in just 40 years. The GWIM program, of course, is all about and all part of helping women and girls fulfill that potential, both economic and otherwise. And CEDPA Plan USA so far, I think, has reached out to over 600 exceptional women, including those that are in this room. And the impact that each of you can have as a result of this program, I think, spreads far and wide. It spreads to your organizations, to your communities, and far beyond that. One of the best aspects of it, in my view, is the fact that those 600 women form a community. My understanding is that many of the graduates of this program stay in touch with each other. They stay in touch with other alumni of the program, which is in itself a very powerful force for change in the world. Okay, so my last task, again, is an honor to introduce our keynote speaker for this evening. Mayra Buvinic, do I have that right? Is a United Nations Foundation Senior Fellow. She's an internationally recognized expert on gender and social development. She has served as the Director for Gender and Development at the World Bank from 2005 to 2011. And before that, she led the Social Development Division and provided violence prevention guidance at the Inter-American Development Bank, IEDB. Mayra is also a founding member and president of the International Center for Research on Women. Now, she's recently authored a groundbreaking report that I guess we're going to hear a little bit about tonight, about how to best improve women's economic empowerment, and that's as part of a joint project with the UN Foundation and Exxon Mobil. The report's called A Roadmap for Promoting Women's Economic Empowerment, and it'll be released this summer. And on behalf of Exxon Mobil, I want to thank Mayra and the United Nations Foundation for their partnership. And on behalf of myself, I'd like to welcome her to the stage. Thank you, Mayra. Thank you all.
Thank you. The one thing that Neal did not know, maybe doesn't know, but I say gracias. Let me tell you what a pleasure, what a great pleasure, what an honor, but what a real great pleasure is to be here today. When I was at the International Center for Research on Women, and this is many, many years ago, but I used to collaborate with CEDPA and this program. So it's wonderful after all these years to come back and see that the program continues to grow and flourish. And I'm so pleased that Plan International, sort of embraced CEDPA and the program, because it has always been a terrific program. And it's just remarkable that it continues to grow. So kudos to all of you, kudos to CEDPA, to Plan, and to Exxon Mobil. So as Neal was saying, this report is coming out this summer, hopefully, and it's a report that was funded by Exxon Mobil, and not only funded, but they were the motivation behind doing it. Because as you know, Exxon Mobil has been funding a lot of women's economic empowerment activities, but at one point they decided that they should probably sort of stop and reflect and figure out what worked. What were the things that were really working, what things maybe were not working as well and could work better. So they came to the UN Foundation and they said, we want to see what is the evidence out there and what is the rigorous evidence of what works to empower women economically. And I had just retired from the bank. I was there and I was just very lucky to be at the right place at the right time. So I joined as a senior fellow and I coordinated this initiative. Let me tell you what sort of when I came to this task, the first thing is I knew how important it is to empower women economically. And I think I've known that throughout my career at the different institutions. And I want to tell you a little story that I think sort of highlights how important it is to empower women economically. And it's the story of Runa. I met Runa many, many years ago. It was actually, I was at ICRW and I was doing some evaluation work for USAID. And I went to Bangladesh, and this was in Chittagong, and I was evaluating a microcredit program. It wasn't Grameen, it was another microcredit program. And I went and I met Runa. And Runa was in Chittagong. It's in a conservative province. She was in Purda. So I was very lucky I could go to the homestead and see her. And she had benefited, she had received a microloan, a grant, a credit. And with that credit, and she was in Purda, and she had her daughter with her. And through a translator, she told me, I said, well, what have you done with the credit? And she said, well, I have a handicraft business. My handicraft business grew. I really made a profit. And then she said, with some of the money of the profit, I gave some money to my husband, who was unemployed then. And he bought a rickshaw and used it as a taxi. And now he has, he has a taxi rickshaw and he makes money. So he's happy. And then she stopped for a while and then she says, you know something? And he doesn't beat me up now. So anyway, that I think is sort of one of the very critical things of what economic empowerment does for women. I mean, not only it helps them grow their business, it helps them with their income, and as women's income rises, economic growth rises also, but it has all these other benefits. And it's what economists call spillover benefits. And one of the benefits, in fact, is that it empowers them in the household. And therefore, it may prevent or stop domestic violence in this case. It also probably really helped her daughter. And I am going to tell you now another story, and this story, well, it's actually a very rigorous study, an experiment, that was, I think, highlighted in a World Development Report of a couple of years ago, and that it shows you what also the other thing that women's economic empowerment does. One of the basic things that women's economic empowerment does is that it really changes norms and changes cultures, and that really improves the lives of women. And let me tell you now the story about this. This was a very rigorous study. It turns out it was done in India, in different villages in India. Many villages, women, young women in particularly, didn't used to work because they had no jobs. Suddenly, the phone call business came in force, to India, and one experimenter, one scientist was able to study the effects in random villages, because then what happened is that these phone call companies went into different villages recruiting young women. And he was able to study the effect of women getting recruited to work, young women getting recruited to work in the phone call business, on the villages and on other women. And what he found out, which is, remarkable, is that over time, and this was over a 3-year period, the nutritional level and the schooling level of girls in these villages improved dramatically. And it improved dramatically not only in the houses of women who were working, the young women were working in the call centers, but also in all the houses. So what happened was basically that young women working changed the perception within families of the importance of girls and of the importance of really investing family money in the nutritional status and in the education of girls. So sort of that is really, I think, the most profound effect of empowering women economically, that it really changes families' perceptions of the importance of girls. And, in rich families, obviously, it doesn't matter, but in poor families, it really matters for the family to invest meager resources in girls. And that, I think, is the transformative power of women's economic empowerment. So anyway, so I was very pleased, therefore, to do this project. And what we did, and I'm just going to give you a few lessons, we put together all the empirical evidence, the really rigorous empirical evidence that can tell you, what works to empower women economically. But we asked 2 additional questions. We said, okay, what works to empower women economically, but also it's important to ask for whom and where. Because not all women are the same, and what may work in one country may not work in another. So we looked at the evidence with these 2 sort of guideposts, what works for whom and for where. We divided all the evidence into 4 big categories of employment that are, sort of sources of employment for women and men in all countries, and are basically entrepreneurship, farming, wage employment, and we had another category of youth employment or young women's employment because of the unique situations of young women in developing countries. So, and then, we put together, and now we have, the report is coming out, and we have a list of proven interventions that are proven to really increase women's economic empowerment, measured in terms of increases in productivity and earnings. We have promising interventions where the evidence is not that rigorous, not that strong, but it's still promising. And we have high potential interventions where there is yet no evidence, but because of conceptual reasons, you think that they really will work. So let me tell you a couple of lessons, overall lessons. And they're not going to surprise you, but At least the first one will not surprise you, but I think it's very important that with rigorous evidence we are able to say this. And the first and the most important, I think, conclusion is that for very, very poor women need more than one intervention to increase their productivities and earnings. Very poor women need more. And, you know, it's very obvious. If you give a microloan for a very poor woman that is an entrepreneur, she will do something with that microloan, but it's not going to grow her business. Because that very poor woman not only needs a microloan, needs some training and needs some technical assistance throughout. There is, and as you know, and the same thing with a very poor farmer. The very poor farmer needs a suite, a package of services to be able to grow her farming business, to be able to be more productive in farming. Very common, very commonsensical, but I think it's very important that we all realize this, because this is not that easy to do. The moment that you are trying to bundle interventions and to do more than one thing, it requires obviously a lot of implementation capacity. And unfortunately, in the very poor villages, with the very poor people, that's where you have the least institutional capacity. Let me tell you one of the very interesting research that led us to this conclusion, and this is a research project that is actually still ongoing, and it was actually working with very, very poor women also in Bangladesh. And it's a project that BRAC did. I don't know if BRAC is a very well-known NGO, non-governmental organization. And again, in this project, they were able to assign people randomly to conditions. So they were able to really make sure that that they could attribute causality to the intervention. And the intervention, you know, for the people who got the intervention, these were very poor women. Most of them were illiterate. They had just, you know, sort of menial jobs. They got, through the intervention, a big capital asset. They got a cow rather than chickens. They got a cow, so it was, you know, cost about $140 for the cow, more than your regular, you know, microloan that is $100. They got the cow, they got training on how to manage that cow, and then they got technical visits over 2 years. It has been now 4 years that this project has been ongoing. They have been able to compare villages where the women had the cow, whatever, with control villages where the women did not get the cow. These women have grown their micro-enterprises, have transformed their occupations into entrepreneurship. Not only that, after 4 years, they're even investing and buying land. So, I think the critical story here is that this was a significant intervention. Now, for women who are better off, a bit better off, they may even be micro-entrepreneurs, but they have maybe one employee or so, they have businesses that are a bit more, there, giving one intervention may make all the difference, and you may not need other interventions. A very promising intervention, and this is, and I'm going to go on sort of to the other side of the world, to Peru, and there's another study, and actually I had the privilege to visit one of these women, and I visited one of them, Juana, and Juana works in Comas, which is one of the neighborhoods, a big neighborhood in Lima. And she has a business. I mean, in a market, in an enclosed market. She has a food business, and she has a stall, and she sells meats, processed meats. And she had participated in training, in business training programs. But then, she took the training program, but also she was in this condition, in this study, where it wasn't only the training program, but she also got consulting services, technical assistance. It was very simple, but one person, an expert, went to her shop, looked at her shop, did 2 or 3 visits, not more, and said to her, oh, listen, you need to wear clean aprons, and you need to clean, the table where you are selling the food, because, so she did that, and you need to put advertisements showing the prices that you're charging. Well, this study, at the end of the study, they saw that the women in that condition, the condition where they had the training, but they had the technical assistance, increased their earnings by 19%. So it was a significant increase in earnings, when the training alone did not do the job. And I think that the researchers really, now they're testing the other condition, and I think that they really believe that really the important thing was that technical visit. Wasn't so much the training, but if you get, for women that are now, that have more capacity, more ability, entrepreneurs that are a bit bigger, if you just give them that extra consulting service, that just technical assistance, that may make all the difference in increasing their productivity and earnings. Do I have time for more or not? Couple minutes? Okay. The last thing is the power of mobile phones. And I will tell you, mobile phones have been an amazing invention, but they have one thing that they really, I think, is incredibly powerful for women entrepreneurs and women who are trying to grow their businesses. What happens, women, when they have cash, when they get credit or whatever, particularly if they're very poor, there's a lot of pressure of not investing all that money in the business. There's in many situations, incredible pressure to give some of that money, that windfall money, away to a relative or to somebody who needs the money. That's why a cow is much better than giving women capital cash, because, they cannot split the cow. I mean, you have to, if you give them chickens, they can give away 1 chicken, right? But a cow, no. But anyway, mobile phones have the capacity of doing that. Women who are doing financial transactions through mobile phones, who are doing m-banking, can do them in private. They don't have to tell anybody that they have the money. And that really makes a difference. And again, there's an experiment in Niger that proves that. So anyway, with that, I think, so anyway, the rest of the report has more lessons. Maybe when it comes, Exxon Mobil will tell you, or you can get a copy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayra. I wish we had been able to say you've got lots more time, because I know that we all enjoyed listening to that and are looking forward to seeing more from the report. And thank you so much, because I think that you gave us some really concrete examples of what happens when women are empowered and can take a hold of that and go forward with it themselves, as well as some of the pitfalls that we may think, oh, well, give somebody money and it'll be a very easy fix. And in fact, life is much more complex than that. And we need to be doing that kind of research and really looking into what works and what doesn't, and how can we not give someone a poisoned gift, but actually give them something that they're going to be able to work with. So now it's my pleasure to introduce the representatives of GWIM 58. The first is a current participant, Anne Otieno from Tanzania, and I'm sorry, I have lights in my eyes, so I'm not sure where you're sitting. There's you. Okay, thank you. Anne is the country manager from Kickstart International in Tanzania. Kickstart is a social enterprise organization that aims to alleviate poverty in Africa through irrigation pumps, enabling farmers to sell high-value crops year-round. As country manager, Anne was the lead implementer of programs that increased women-run irrigated farming businesses, and she has helped educate 16,000 women farmers in best agricultural practices in small-scale irrigation. She's also been responsible for spearheading mobile layaway in Tanzania, a micro-savings program that allows poor women farmers to purchase irrigation pumps, thus promoting economic self-reliance. Additionally, Anne has contributed to a research project that assesses the impact of irrigation pumps on gender and assets, which will inform policymakers and donor communities. Anne is working towards a diploma in business administration from the Associates of Business Executives. Anne, please join us, and thank you so much in advance for what you will tell us.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. We have made some strides in Tanzania in recognizing the value of women in legislation level and even being aware of the gender disparity both in the urban and rural context. But we still do have a long way to go in actualizing this, especially in the rural setup where customs and cultural barriers still take precedent. Many of these strides will come from NGOs like mine. Like you've already heard from Christine, Kickstart International is a social enterprise, not-for-profit organization, and our mission is to lift millions of people out of poverty through economic growth and wealth creation. We do this by advancing smallholder irrigation to improve livelihoods for Tanzania rural farmers from human-powered pressure moneymaker irrigation pumps that allow small-scale farmers to irrigate up to 2 acres of land in one day. This has decreased dependency on rain, allowing farmers to plant and harvest year-round, and ability to sell, produce when demand is high and supply is low. Thus, they are able to increase their income. But we are experiencing some challenges. We target the group that is at the base of the pyramid, that is the very poor rural farmers. And I'm glad to hear the outcome of the research that you're doing, that you need more than one intervention. The farmers are not able to purchase the pump because it is considered a high-ticket item, and therefore the ability to purchase is quite a barrier. Last year in March, we received a grant award on women and innovation from US State Department that will help us to address this. We are partnering with Vodacom, which is a mobile service provider, to pilot a micro savings project that will enable farmers and especially women to be able to purchase our moneymaker pumps through mobile banking savings called M-Pesa. Again, we look at taking it further than just being able to do savings. Like you've already heard that mobile is a very powerful technology that can be used in the rural areas. And we hope that through this, we shall be able to turn around the saving time from when a woman hears about the pump to the time that she's able to own one, from 10 months to 2.5 months. What makes me excited about the work that we do at Kickstart is the lives that are being transformed by the moneymaker irrigation pumps. And I want to tell you a story about one such farmer, Mrs. Gwami, who is a farmer in the rural outskirts of Dar es Salaam. She has 3 children. She first heard about our pump in 2006 from one of our sales reps that was at a market creating awareness. I asked her what drew her to the pump, and she said that she realized that this could make her work easier. That was the first thing she thought about, since at that time she was irrigating using buckets at a time. She had to save up for over 1 year before she could own the pump. And when she had saved up enough money, it was her husband who went to buy the pump. But the good thing, the ending is good, because Mrs. Gwami has been able to take her children to school, and together with her husband, they've been able to put up a stone house. She's been able to hire extra people to work at the farm, which is actually an agribusiness producing. She's able to make enough money, and she has extra savings. Kickstart Tanzania, we have sold over 52,000 pumps since 2000. We have also created over 43,000 agribusinesses and lifted over 220,000 households out of poverty. In March of last year, I was promoted to head the country program in Tanzania. I have a team of 50 staff, with a bigger part being in the field, a team that works in the rural areas, creating awareness and implementing the different projects that we have. We also work with the private businesses, who we actually authorize them as moneymaker dealers countrywide. These dealers make it easy for farmers to access all moneymaker products. When I got this promotion, we were going through organizational structural changes in Tanzania, and I realized that I needed some capacity building, especially in leadership and also around gender. One of my colleagues, Ed Chan Lizardo, who is our director for fundraising, told me about Exxon Mobil's CEDPA program and encouraged me to apply. My CEO, Martin Fisher, was also very supportive in this matter, especially because it means 1 month away from the office. All the topics we have learned at the workshops have been very useful and impactful in my life, especially the leadership training. I now recognize my style of leadership. We were taught about emotional intelligence, being aware of ourselves and others. I've learned how to manage myself and others and the impact of my emotions as a leader, and much, much more. I want to really thank Exxon Mobil for their sponsorship and making it possible for me to participate in this GWIM 58 program. I am now more confident and filled with new energy to not only go back and impart the knowledge I have received to my team, but also on the farmers and especially the women we work with in the many communities in Tanzania. And for this, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Anne, for those really inspiring words. And it's great to hear how what you've done in the past, but also what you'll be going back and working towards in the future. And so I hope that we'll have you back here at another GWIM in a year or several years to tell us how things are going. In that same sense, I'm very pleased to be able to announce an alumna of a previous GWIM who's here to tell us about the work that she's been doing and that she continues to do in support of the GWIM mission. She is Marilyn Tabagua. I hope I said your name right. Okay. From Papua New Guinea. And I'm just going to say that, Plan International has 50 countries where we work. PNG is not one of them. And that's one of the reasons that I'm so excited about this merger with CEDPA, because it gets us out into places where we are not currently. And PNG is a place that I'm really hoping to go. So anyway, I'm happy to welcome you to the podium. Marilyn is the coordinator of the Rural Women's Development Foundation, Incorporated. She is currently coordinating training for rural women in basic business management, simple bookkeeping, and saving and sourcing startup for business capital. RWDF has funded 60 women in small businesses such as poultry, ice block making, and selling secondhand clothing. She also helps women to open savings accounts within the commercial banking system. She has helped to start a company called Upstream Hela Women, through which 200 women bought a semi-trailer. The truck is making 500,000 kina annually for the women members. Marilyn is also helping women gain access to markets, especially building poultry and pig slaughterhouses. Marilyn has a nursing certificate from the Nazarene School of Nursing. So not only is she in small business, but she's also a nurse, so really showing how multi-talented the participants are. Margaret is a CEDPA GWIM alumna. She's a coach and a trainer. Margaret.
Thank you, Christine, for this time. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to talk about GWIM and how the training has played a major role in achieving my goals and have impacted a lot of women's life in elevating poverty in my country. As Christine has mentioned, I am not Margaret, I'm Marilyn Tabagua. Yeah, Margaret and I, we look alike, we are confused. A lot of CEDPA staff confuse us. And if you don't know where Papua New Guinea is an island, and it's in north of Australia. Women in my country face a lot of challenges, and I want to tell you about what challenges we face in my country. In my country, men lead the family and make decisions about family's wealth. Women are often denied the rights to express their opinion, and the freedom of movement is limited through the male relatives' wishes. Polygamy is very alive and well in Papua New Guinea. This leads to violence and have land issues and poverty. Women work harder than men and are responsible for all household work and family maintenance, meaning women have to provide for the meal for the children in the afternoon. Women have very little access to finance and even less access to marketplace in which to sell their goods. Poor basic government services, especially on poor roads, condition making it difficult and inaccessible to reach local markets. There are also widespread of law and order problems, making it hard for women to do business safely and securely. So I have always seen these issues and worked to improve my community in small ways. So in 2008, I was nominated by Exxon Mobil, thank you Exxon Mobil, to attend CEDPA GWIM 46 in Washington, DC. And I was expected to learn as much as I could, especially in management, leadership, and communication skills. At the intense 4 weeks of training, CEDPA asked us, the facilitators asked us, and what we could do and implement when we go back into our country. For me, it was difficult because at that time, the project I do, the health program I do, wound down and I had no job at that time. So I decided I could take what I've learned and start to write a project proposal because CEDPA taught us how to write a project proposal. and that is how the program called Rural Women Development Foundation was formed right at CEDPA office in here, Washington, DC. The goal of the project was to eradicate poverty in the rural areas by empowering disadvantaged women to actively take part in entrepreneurial business development. And our objectives were, like Christine has said, to train 100 rural women in basic management skills by 2015, sourcing rotating small capital to 100 trained women to start up small businesses, open saving accounts for 50% of those women members, and we are well on our way. I was called again by CEDPA in 2010 to attend a coaching and advocacy workshop on women economic empowerment. We were brought together as country team from 6 countries to identify issues affecting women economically. The PNT team worked on issues of access to market for rural women. So with 50,000 grant from Exxon Mobil, We did advocacy at the national level, local level government forums, and brought awareness the issues of market access for women. During that time, we also organized women to form a company to cooperatively buy a semi-trailer trucks for transport to use at the liquefied natural gas projects in our country. So in 2009, the women members managed to raise $500,000, which is well over $200,000 US. And we were, after 2 years, the truck made also $500,000 net profit for the women members. That's 209 women members. So monthly it makes about $700,000 for the women members. Today I'm here again as a CEDPA and plant training team. This is my third time to be here again. I'm happy. And I hope that I can help bring this training to Papua New Guinea. With more women leaders trained like me, my fellow alumni, we can join hands to help our women gain financial independence. Also, I would like to encourage the GWIM participants who are in this room. What you have been taught? To apply what you have been taught. If it worked for me, I know it will work for you ladies also. And I thank God for blessing me personally because I'm a single mom and I'm a nurse. I didn't know how to do the business. Now I'm running a small business to help my 4 daughters' education, and I'm happy. And thank you, CEDPA and hardworking staff. Our achievements are your achievement. And you have a success story to tell. And thank you, Exxon Mobil, for your funding such programs. Empowering women leaders and professional women like us, we in turn are helping and empowering women in our countries. We are truly agents for elevating poverty in this world, expressed to the minority and the voiceless. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. There's something that Marilyn just said that really struck a chord with me, and I want to use it as the kind of final idea for the evening, which is she talked about her daughters, and Neal talked about his daughters, and I have a daughter and a niece who are at home. You know, all of us are role models, and whether we like it or not, we are role models. And as a parent, and I'll say particularly as a mother, we influence what our daughters and our sons think about who women are and what women can do. And we can influence them positively or we can influence them negatively. And just what you said it just portrayed so crystal clearly for me how important this is, not just for the people who are in this room, but for all the people who are influenced by us, and in particular, the young people who are at home and who see what we do and how we do it, and who take that and then have that influence how they live their lives. So with that note, I want to thank everybody again. We've had this lovely salad sitting in front of us while we've listened to these inspiring words, and so now I wish you bon appétit. Please take advantage of the people sitting at your tables. I know some people have been asking me, what are these little signs on the tables? And should we lack for a subject of conversation, you can be inspired by them. Somehow I don't think that's going to be a problem. So everyone have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you again to all of our participants and to Exxon Mobil.